This is the Ross Report.
Joining me on the telephone right now, my friend, WWE Hall of Famer Shawn Michaels, the author of Wrestling for My Life, the legend, the reality, and the faith of a WWE superstar, available on Amazon.com. Shawn, you noted author, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'll have you know, it's also available at Barnes & Noble, regular bookstores, Books A Million, Family Christian bookstores, any decent red-blooded American bookstore, even Walmart, are carrying Wrestling for My Life. And I'm very thankful to just the whole wrestling audience out there, because it's doing really well, and I'm incredibly happy about that.
Well, you have everyone's support. It's a great story. It's about your faith, which some people don't want others to know about their faith, and some people believe and are taught that sharing your faith is a good thing. And obviously, that makes up a large part of this book. Where do you think you came to the realization that you had to make a change in your life? It was time. Something had to change. Was there a moment that you can remember?
Oh yeah. Well, heck, I mean, you dealt with me back in the day, and I think it would be fair to say, from your standpoint, that any good change I wanted to make would have been really welcomed by you and a number of other people. But honestly, my sort of low point moment was it was just a very quiet scene at my house. It was when I was away with my back injury, and my son and I were enjoying our pizza and cookie night, and I had gone in a bit and was half in the bag, and my son at 2 years old was crawling on me, and he said, "Daddy's tired." And it struck me that, oh my goodness, now he's getting to an age where now he can see a difference in Daddy, and then just I knew that it wouldn't be long before, again, that what we do in moderation, our children will do in excess, and it just completely broke me down. I was just crushed by that, and I just realized if the only way my young son's going to have any idea how to even be in the ballpark of being a decent young man is by watching me. And I've been trying to get better, so to speak, but obviously wasn't there yet. And that was the day. Just I looked at myself in the mirror, and just the shame and the humiliation and all of it was just too much for me to bear. And I said, that's it.
So you go cold turkey? Cold
turkey. Yep. The next day I get up out of bed and tell my wife that I'm done. She very nicely says, "That's nice, honey." And of course, being unsure, she'd heard that before. But that's the point to where I went to the church and asked them about a Bible study. And in the next couple of days, I went to that Bible study, and they asked me if I wanted to confess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I said I did, and I did that, and then just started blubbering like a baby, and just sort of all this emotion just came out of me. And that was the day. I continued to go to that Bible study and just continued to sort of pursue that aspect and to pursue a relationship. It was my first realization that I could be connected to Almighty God. And again, I recognize there's some folks don't believe all that. I do, and so you have to look at it. I guess if you're a non-believer, I totally understand, but you have to at least do your best to look at it. And from my standpoint and in my context, I believe there is, and I want to know Him better, and I want to be able to, I want to be better for Him, and so that's what I started to do from that day forward. And obviously, the most important part of that to me in my life and here on this earth is being a better father and a better husband.
Well, I can certainly say that from being around you on both the Shawn nowadays and the Shawn of years ago, there's a big difference. And the other thing is, I think that people were waiting for you to fall. So I think
right.
People were waiting for Shawn to trip and fall and go back and bring out the other guy.
Yeah,
I understand.
I was aware of that. I was not hurt by any of that. I understood that it was okay with me that people felt that way, and that there would be some me having to prove myself. I knew that there would be some people, majority would just be fans, people that have never met me and never knew me that would just, never accept me, but I mean, the people that mattered to me, as you know, Jim, were, again, my peers in that locker room, the guys that I shared that locker room with. And that's why, even in doing this book, that's why I reached out. I mean, I recognized for some people, I knew it wasn't going to be a big stretch to get somebody like Hunter to write the foreword in my book. And people could look at that, well, Hunter's his buddy, of course he's going to do that. But that's why I wanted to reach out to Steve Austin and to Undertaker, guys to just write dedications or just anything, whatever it is. And I told all of them, that you don't have to do it. I asked Vince to do it. You don't have to do it, but if you'll do it, and I want you to be honest, and it doesn't matter what you write, I'll put it on there. And they were all, thrilled and honored to do it. I mean, heck, Steve's was so good and so moving to me that we made the book with 2 forewords. It was honest and straightforward, but it was still, touching, in my opinion. And, if we could have had 3 forewords, I'd have thrown Undertaker's in there. We just had to shave his down a little bit and put it as a dedication on the back. And so for me, mending those relationships with those guys, the guys that I spent a lot of time in the trenches with, that's really what was, certainly when it came to my job and going back to my job, that's what was most important to me was mending those relationships, and then even more importantly, having the opportunity to build on them and have actual friendships. And I'm glad to say all these years later, I have that with those guys, and it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty good group. It was interesting how everybody's road traveled to get to WWE in that locker room together. It's interesting to look back at the 4 journeys because I believe that as far as Taker, Steve, and yourself, at least had some territory experience, or at least like a territory experience, which I think is a big difference in the whole business today that is oftentimes overlooked. But nonetheless, I think that we've got some really interesting wrestling questions here. I love the fact that you made a change, and I love being around you. And when I left WWE, I had the desire to kind of reinvent myself at 60-plus years old. I'm 63 now. So that was a challenge to me. But I had to take an inventory first and determine the priority of things. And so I came up with what was a nice little plan. And you come up with a priority list, and you have them in proper order from every time I've seen you since in the last several years, which has been excellent. So have WWE reached out to you maybe to mentor some of those kids in Orlando or any of those things like that, or do you have an interest in that kind of stuff?
That ability for me to take part in whatever it is I'd like to take part in, that offer's always sort of been there. Right now, I choose not to do that because I'm interested right now in trying new things. And obviously, my outdoor show, we're even looking at trying to change the format of that a little bit, making it more than just a hunting show, so to speak.
Yeah.
And maybe do some more and different programming with them on the outdoor channel. So that's one thing. And then obviously doing this book. So, I mean, for me, I want to go back and do that when I'm passionate about it again. And right now, I'm passionate about doing other things, trying new endeavors, and as I say, being here with my family.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I'm looking forward to do. So as of right now, no, I don't. Again, I don't ever want to make it sound like I'm too good for the WWE, because I'm certainly not. It's just I don't want to go back there and do a job that I'm not 100% totally into, because I don't think it'd be fair to them, and I don't think it'd be fair to the people I was working with.
Yeah, it's you got to be fully invested in it. I mean, emotionally, I can understand where you are. It makes sense to me. How has the travel been? To bring back any pleasant memories of being on the road, this travel for your book tour? Because I know you've been to many cities on this.
Yeah, it's been it's certainly, well, the busyness has been there. The leaving every week, which is doing a different town sort of every day, is somewhat similar to the book tour. But it's been very nice. The book's been received really well, and I always like doing the personal appearances. As you know, you've always been sort of a lovable character from the WWE. I now have at least reached, I mean, certainly there's still those people that, whatever, will always hate me, but for the most part, I've gotten, to where I'm the, whatever, I'm knocking on the door of 50, and I'm that guy that a lot of people have grown up with, and, have seen, they've seen grow. And so it's a more all-around likable character. And so those appearances are always a great joy to do. Gosh, people coming up with pictures of you and them when, heck, they were 12 and now they're 22 or 24 or whatever the case may be. And it's, it's just neat. Everybody's got a story. So it's been actually a great deal of fun. And then, of course, there's the people that are even moved and touched by the book that, for whatever reason they've strayed off course like we all have, and this book came at the right time. So it's been a lot of fun doing the book tour. It really has, and been fun getting out there and again rubbing elbows with the fans that have supported me for all these years.
Yeah, that's the thing about it that's sometimes overthought by younger talent. Man, you got a gold standard commodity in those fans, and if you're good to them and you're straight with them and you're honest with them and you take a picture, I'd rather sign an autograph or take a picture as explain why I don't have the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I do my best to be as good as I can, but I have my times. I mean, it's tough after you've done 3 hours.
Yep.
And you come and you're trying to catch a flight home out that night, and the guys who didn't want to wait in line are there at the airport.
Yeah.
And you just came off 3 hours. You go, okay, all right, dude, I sign one boy before I leave, and he's got 10 things. Like, come on, just one more.
No, yeah,
just one more, just a minute.
I say,
but still, you still, you might grumble a little bit, but you sign it, and then you run to your gate.
I tell them one group shot. That's it. We're out. We got to go. Or usually, hey, I'm old. I got to go to the bathroom. And more often than not, that's true. Well, you threw it out there on Twitter, which we both are on. Fans ask some questions. This one I thought was pretty good. It's a two-parter, Shawn. It's worth bonus points.
Okay.
Two-parter now. One, did you ever consider going to WCW? And two, if you had gone to WCW, how do you think that would have affected or impacted your legacy?
Well, one, I thought about it, but there's two things I always try to tell people. I mean, I did. I went to Vince and I said, just let me go. Let me go. I'm miserable here. I can't stand it here anymore. I want to go down and be with my buddies. Let me go. And he just said no. And at that time I'm under contract by the WWE, so you couldn't go. But there was a time I did want to go. And then what he said to me after that sort of hit me, and I thought, you know what, maybe he's got a point. And he said, look, you go down there. He said, you're a creative guy. He said, once you get past, being angry, at everything, and it comes to just working, you want to do, your things your way. When you get a chance to have your matches or be creative, whatever, that's what you thrive on. And they won't let you do that down there. You're not going to be able to have that down there. And he said, and that's going to kill you. He said, you'll never be able to make it in that kind of environment because they will, squelch the one thing about this job that you thoroughly enjoy, which is the creative, the creating side. He said, so even if I was gonna let you, you wouldn't like it down there. I'm telling you. And as years pass, and I've heard about how it was down there. I think you might have had some validity there. But truthfully, I couldn't have gone. I was under contract. You know what I mean? It was, as you know, people always thought that you could just leave, and I guess some guys went ahead and left. But Vince, and I guess Vince had him under contract, but he just didn't worry about fighting it. Mm. He would have fought it with me, I think.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And I think it would have affected my career like it did everybody else's. I mean, I think all the guys that left and went down there, I think it affected whatever their legacy and stuff like that. I mean, I am known solely as a WWE guy.
Right. There
isn't anybody else. I guess Brett can, but heck, even Taker. I mean, he came from there, but I think it would have affected it in a negative way, and I think he probably knew what was better for me back then more than I did.
Or certainly more than you wanted to admit.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
without
At the time, you bet.
the nature of the beast at that point in your life. So you mentioned creative and having your creativity stifled. I have had Twitter people today now ask if you ever had interest in working in the creative team at WWE.
Well, the thing is, I do enjoy that part, and I would love doing that. It's just in that setting, as I understand it currently is, it just wouldn't be a great, wouldn't be a great fit for me. I think, I think there'd be a bunch of stifling going on now that I don't know. I mean, there are times. There are times like he listened to me a bunch. I was always able to, sway him on things that other people couldn't. But it would, not right now. It would require more time than I could give right now. I'd always be open, I think, to the sort of like a Pat Patterson gig where you could, you could have a couple projects, so to speak, and that you could, you could write in from home about them and things of that nature. But again, it's just as much interest as I have in that. It would be the whole required having to be there every week again and every pay-per-view, and and that's something. If you're going to do that, man, you might as well go back and be an on-air character and make more money doing it.
I just had chills when you said be there every week.
Yeah,
and I just said, oh, I don't.
Just
I
get
miss
you back to a busy schedule, as you know, Jim. Yeah.
I miss when the red light comes on. Until we said good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. That was the most adrenaline rush that I had all week of anything that I did, and boy, that you really get to liking that, and one can like it too much, to be honest with you. And I know it has affected my decision making at times, taking that role too seriously. Do you think you ever took what you did too seriously?
Sure. In those early years, you bet. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things I think that my faith and my family brought to me when I came back in 2002 was having the priorities in the right place. Still came to work, still did it well, worked hard while I was there, but I didn't think about it until I walked in that door, and I dropped it at the door when I left, and it was easy, and it was always easy to do.
Cool.
And that's something clearly, as you know, I did not have the ability to do those years before. I had nothing in my life, everything about me and my identity was based on what I was doing in that ring. So I took myself way too seriously then. Even if, again, and I don't know if it's fair to say I took myself too seriously, but I took the job and the way I did that job too seriously. I think back then I was a guy, what we did Generation X stuff back then, I was able to laugh at myself, so to speak, but, taking, the job, way too seriously. And as I say, when I came back, that's something I didn't do. And again, I think that's what made it so easy for me. A number of things made it easier for me to walk away when I did. It all felt so right. A number of things, fell into place. And it's just one of those things that you look at and you go, yeah, this is the right time. And so if you can do that, that makes it very easy to walk away.
Well, we came back in 2002. I thought I was really, really curious to see how you were going to perform. I was not worried about effort or motivation, because you're the kind of guy that, in a good sense, you don't like to be one-upped your competitor. And especially when you get in the ring, it's a whole different world there that you guys know, and some of us have passed through it but never resided there very long, thank God. The world does not deserve to see me in tights. Do you ever want to be a wrestler? No, the world doesn't deserve to see me in tights. One other Twitter question here. Do you know what the post-WrestleMania 14 creative plans were for the Heartbreak Kid?
I do not, but I don't. I don't think any were even put into place. I mean, because let's face it, we knew not long after the Rumble match that I wasn't going forward. So, at best, we were gonna, we would have done, whatever, some, me trying to regain
Sure.
the title. You might have gone to, one pay-per-view after that with me and Steve trying to get one, get it back or something. But then Steve was going to, march on his way. So I think because everyone knew, we knew basically pretty quickly that WrestleMania was going to be my last shot, so there was no
Got it.
Forethought. And I guess, and as you know, Jim, sometimes people think that we've got stuff, way out in advance, and that's that's not always the case. There are sometimes some real rough drafts of what you'd like to have down the road, but that's hardly any of that's in stone. And as best I recall, and again, heck, you were in there, then you'd know more than me, but as best I recall, we knew pretty quickly after the Rumble match that things weren't looking good for me, and for a number of different reasons. So I don't know that there were any. Heck, who knows? Privately with you guys, it might have been, even if I could wrestle again, like, hey, let's give him some time off because we need to get him centered and straight again. So I never heard anything about what was going on after, except I was going home.
I really was concerned about your back because, I'm not a doctor, and, you don't want to be in a position to feel like you were a co-conspirator to getting somebody with a permanent injury and that affects their life. I don't know how bad your back is, and I know it's bad, but that was my biggest issue. I was never worried about the match you and Steve would have or, doing business. That was non-issue. I think my take on it was, at that point, you were so ready to go home that you just wanted to go to the arena, and was it in Boston?
Yes.
And do your work and take a shower and go home.
Yeah. Get out of there.
I thought you had just, I'm done. You got everything I had. I'm done. I got to go home.
Yeah, and mentally, that's certainly where I was at. Cause so yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, even if people were to, even if you took the injury out of there from the prospect of it's career-ending injury, I think everybody probably would have said, look, because I was also not just physically, but I was also mentally burned out. So I think everyone probably would have come to the agreement, like let's you finish up here and let's you go home for 6 months. Let's you recharge, you rest, you get better, whatever. So yeah, but that, I don't that. As far as I know, there was nothing.
I never thought, though, that when you went home, that it would be 4 years until we would see you again. That was also, that's an interesting story. Do you cover that to any degree in your book? Because I have to admit, I haven't read it yet. No,
not really. But again, it's another one of those situations where, and again, people have given me a hard time about it in the past, but. It's like going to these doctors that look at you and say it's over. I mean, and that's what he said. And so all I can do is relay that message to you guys.
Right.
And this is what he said. And even then, and as you know, I mean, like this was way back before we had the number of different the number of different good neck guys and back guys. We didn't have all those guys then. All those injuries weren't. Nobody was getting their C4s done and all that kind of stuff. Nobody was getting back stuff done until until after I got mine done. It's like we didn't get Dr. Andrews on board until whatever it was, 1994 or 5 or whatever that was.
Right.
When the Spurs team doctor looked at my knee and he said, "Dude, you'll never wrestle in that thing again." Until you get a guy that's like a Dr. Andrews who understands the business and says, "Okay, look, it's going to be ugly, and you'll have to have this replaced someday, and you'll have to wear a brace on it. But I understand the job is you guys don't get paid if you don't get, you don't eat, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
With this, and this, you can come back and and do on it. You'll just always have to wear a brace. You'll always have to wrap it. And someday you're going to have to get this thing fixed." And so, but with my back guy, totally different guy. Yeah, he just said you'd never do it again. But even when I was going to go back and do it, he just said, he goes, I don't know how. He said, I can't put my name on a piece of paper saying so it's okay. I never got a release from that guy. I just went back and wrestled, because he wasn't about to put his name on a piece of paper, saying that I released this guy because he's in good enough shape to wrestle. So. I think that fusion surgery and stuff like that, it's, they didn't know enough about it, and not, I don't think, besides me, I don't know anybody else has ever had a lower back fusion and gotten back in there. I don't know.
I don't either. Shawn Michaels is our guest on the Ross Report. We thank you for downloading us here on Podcast One. The messages you will hear in a moment are from the most important people on earth. They are our sponsors. And they keep us on this air absolutely free, and we'll be back with Shawn Michaels right after you pay attention to this message.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho here, and if you want to hear from some of the biggest names in pro wrestling and some of my best friends in the world, then you got to download Talk is Jericho, Triple H, Batista, Edge, Bray Wyatt, the Hardy Boys, DDP, Jake the Snake Roberts, Daniel Bryan, Bret the Hitman Hart, Cesaro, so many more. You want wrestling? You want the inside scoops? I got you covered. Download brand new episodes of Talk is Jericho every Wednesday and Friday at podcast1.com.
The Ross Report with Jim Ross.
We're back on the Ross Report with Shawn Michaels. We talked about your injury and coming back in 2002, literally, at least to us mere mortals, not missing a beat, because I got to do the play-by-play on that match with you and Triple H, and that was one of the most enjoyable matches I had ever done, and I still believe that. People ask me all the time, I'm sure you get this, what's your favorite match, Shawn? What's your favorite match you ever called? Oh, I don't know. I've only done it 30,000 or whatever, I don't know how many. I don't know. I don't have a favorite. But I can tell you that if I
to ever boil it down to just one.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, you can. But if I had a top 10, that match would definitely be on my list. It would make the cut. So
I appreciate that.
Well, it was really good, and it was fresh, and it spoke to a lot of things. It spoke to how talents are booked and how talents are used, and you were fresh, and you had this legacy, and the storyline was good. It was a personal issue, duh. They always work if they're done organically and in a real feel. Personal issues, I said this, and I'd like your take on it. I believe that personal issue matches, as a fan, as I grew up, I was more enthralled in the personal issues than I was the title matches, because then the NWA champion only came through about twice a year. So
right.
Your local guy, you had your local champ, the Mid-South champion or whatever. So, what's your thoughts on that? What's your philosophy on that?
No, by all means, they're always the best, because you've got two choices. You either make the championship mean everything under the sun, all right?
Yep.
And that's how you're gonna and you depend on that to draw your money. And even if you do that, your support has got to have the next thing under that has got to be somebody with a serious angle, serious storyline going, and it's got to be personal. And and when the personal ones are doing better is when people would rather see that than the championship match.
Uh-huh.
And so that's an easy one. Those always work. And then, as you stated, because for the most part you had a regional championship,
right?
And in a perfect world, you could make the championship and a personal issue there, but again, it always works when it goes beyond, again, just whatever I stole so and so's ballet.
Yeah.
It's got to be a little bit deeper than that.
Well,
those are the ones that draw big money.
Yeah, when it gets personal, and you can identify it as a John Q. Citizen, it's either over jealousy or envy or deceit, or some of those seven deadly sins. You don't have to overthink this thing, in my view, but I like personal issues. And with that said, I believe that we're at a stage, and probably have been for the last 5 years, that John Cena is going to be over to whatever level John Cena is going to be over, with or without the title at this point in his career. Do you agree with that assessment, or am I looking?
Yeah, I think he's good. Yeah, I don't think John needs the championship to stay at whatever status he's at currently.
He's the most polarizing figure, and so I almost think sometimes it's just I don't want to say a fad. It's not a good word. A trend maybe of the "Let's go Cena sucks" things, where you see it every week on Monday night. It's almost as if there's a certain contingent of fans that are at Raws that believe it's their obligation to participate in that chant.
Right.
It's like the Daniel Bryan's yes stuff. It's compelling right now, and they love him. And Hey, I'm a big Daniel Bryan fan, and I still believe that size should not be a major issue, if it is or if it isn't. But his size doesn't bother me.
Well, I mean, no, it doesn't bother me either. Again, I don't know enough about the product to know, But at the same time, what people, again, it's just facts are facts. Unless something has changed, over whatever the last year, couple of years, everything goes down when Cena isn't involved. It's just that simple, and the numbers don't lie, and no one else can get them to where John gets them. From my understanding, that's what they are. Now, again, it's like again, you can be hugely over with the 5,000 people in the building, but if the other guy draws 10,000 people and half of them boo him and half of them cheer him, what's it matter? 10 is still more than 5. They're going to go with the guy that brings in 10,000. And so that's what I think is going on a lot of the times. Again, clearly understand everyone. I'm a guy that knows very little. I'm not getting any information. I just know from the last time I ever asked about something like this, he's still the only guy that does a noticeable, jump in the numbers, and there's a noticeable downturn when he's not, on the shows. I can
understand that.
That's why they go. That's why he's always got to be in there.
Well, and
that doesn't mean he has to be the champion all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But you got to be there.
I think that you have to, at this stage of the game, at his age, and he's certainly not old. I could only wish I was in my 30s, but again,
well, and I certainly won't disagree with you, because you always got to be thinking about the next guy. You got to be thinking about injuries.
Yeah,
you got So, you certainly don't get me wrong. I'm not saying because you still want merchandise sales to go. I mean, so to me, you throw more people. I wouldn't just pick one. Heck, I'd pick a number of people and let them compete, and see who the people gravitate to.
Right. Yeah. That's good market research, by the way, because that's your core customer base. They left home, traveled to the arena, paid to park, got in the building, found their seats, bought an overpriced Coke and a box of popcorn, and here we are. And they're going to tell you what they like, and they're going to tell you what they don't like, and they should express themselves. They made an investment. So I'm like you. I'm a lot more concerned about having a rear end every 18 inches in that building than not. That's the bottom line for everybody.
Right. Well, and also, again, what people, I think also need to be taken into consideration, there are a lot of numbers that, most people don't see. And there's also a lot of fans that you don't hear from, because I think, the business, again, the difference between it thriving and not thriving is based on that casual fan, not the hardcore fan. And I don't mean that to ever sound like I'm disrespecting the one. What I'm saying is the other one essentially is almost always going to be there. It's getting those more of those fringe people that aren't always there, and that's who you need to get to tip the scales, into drawing money and have more crossover appeal and things of that nature. And that's where, I've been through it. That's where a guy like me, and even in Brian's situation, it's just putting me on a show with a bunch of other people. I don't stand out much. I mean, I don't look. You can put me on Letterman. Letterman's going to be taller than I am because he's 6'4". You're going to dwarf Daniel Bryan. He's going to be taller than Cena too, but at least Cena's going to be 4 miles wide. So I mean, and those are things that again that they think about. It's just casual fans want the guys to be bigger than life. Sometimes they want them to be something they're not. The hardcore fans, they don't care about that. All they care about is the wrestling ability. And again, believe me, I'm not knocking it. I appreciate that because heck, they were there for me a lot of times. I just think there are other considerations that a big, huge company has to think about, and it's not always as simple. Believe me, I wish it was, but it's not as simple as just going with the guy that is the best wrestler. And also, again, he's got and again, it's cool, but it's it's catchphrase. But the key is he's got to start bringing 10,000 people to the building. He's got to start bringing as many people to the building and as many people watching the show as Cena can, and then he's got a real chance. You know what I mean? It's just, and people can say this is not fair and that's not fair. They're right, okay, but it's you can't spin your wheels trying to change the game or change the reality of a situation. You need to play the game as it is, and you got to win, decisively on somebody else's terms. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and people don't want to hear that, unfortunately. And then with the social media chatter, I woke up one morning not long ago, and it was after a Monday Night Raw, and Brock Lesnar had left the building before the show ended and ended up not being on the show when he was advertised to be on the show, allegedly for whatever. The internet went crazy. I have no idea what he left the building for, nor do I care. It's none of my business. I just know that normally when wrestlers have issues with their companies, over my experience, it's been one of the two C's, either cash or creative. So my point in that is that whatever happened last night, by the time you wake up in the morning, will already be out there. It's an amazing world that we live in.
Well, and that's sort of my point. The thing is, the only audience we'll really hear from is the hardcore, and that's usually negative. Because the casual fan, it's not going to be, it's not the first thing on their mind.
Right.
It's not the first thing. You're not going to hear about it that night. And that's sort of what I mean by that. We get a lot of the casual fans for our WrestleManias, but they're not always paying attention to Raw the next day. I mean, Jim, something we try to do every year is get all those eyes and interest and all the things that we get in WrestleMania. We'd like to have that all year.
Sure.
But we don't, do we?
No.
Exactly.
No.
And so, but the only people we hear from, and again, I hope everybody's understanding, I'm not meaning this as a knock, but the only people we hear from are whatever, you don't have to call them, hardcore, just our regulars. They're the regulars.
Right,
but, when you start to grow beyond that, you don't hear from some of those people. They went to WrestleMania yesterday, and they're, from their standpoint, they're not, they're not jumping on their Twitter and making sure they follow me today to tell me what they do. They might do something completely different and don't even follow wrestlers, but they go to WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's what it is. It's trying to bring sort of all those people back, so to speak, and get them watching again. And truthfully, I don't know how you do that. It's usually a storyline, timing, and a guy.
Yep.
All those things come together, and it connects with people beyond our old faithfuls, and that's what usually does it. And we have those times when it peaks, and then we have those times when it doesn't.
Yeah, it's all about the attraction and the star power. Who's over? Who's the star in the eyes of those that are fans and detached fans? There's no magic formula. Gosh, if there were, you could bet that WWE would make sure they own the patent on it because
right. And lately I've been saying again, and hope everybody understands. It's just nothing but speculation on my part, man. I'm just and I'm not throwing it to anybody's fault, but one, it's an incredibly bitter and cynical business, first place, but it's also, again, right now it's almost a whole new sort of generation, so to speak, and it's a generation of folks who are running it, who've been doing things a certain way. I think right now, I think they're all just having trouble connecting right now. You know what I mean? They haven't learned how to, it's like having this new kind of new gadget. It's my new iPhone, and trying to figure out all the things it can do. And I don't, all I do is call on it and text on it right now. But I know it's got a gazillion other abilities to it.
Yeah.
But it's going to take me time to figure it out. And I think that's what's, you know what I mean? I think that's what's going on right now. I think it's for lack of better terms, management and talent, figuring out how to get the best out of each other, how to bring the best out of each other. I don't think they found that yet, and sometimes that takes a little time. And I think there's been times in the past when that's happened before, and then one side eventually gets what the other side is talking about, and they come together, and then it starts to work.
Do you think that the fans themselves have changed to any significant or noticeable degree from today back to when you were in, let's say, 2002?
Well, what I can say is this. I have social media now. I never had any type of real, internet out there, kind of, I mean, I had no feel for that kind of stuff. I knew what was going on in the building, could feel the people at the building, you hear the people when you're leaving, knew if a match was good. I will say this, if the fans have always been how they are right now, that what I see, then I would say, and again, they're going to get angry at me for saying it, I've never seen so many people who would continue to watch a TV show that they complain so much about. See, me, I consider that abnormal. If I watch a show and I don't like it, I'll never watch the show again. You know what I mean? I just don't, if I don't like it while I'm watching it, I change the channel. And so, and again, I'm not advocating, gosh, I'll probably get in trouble by the WWE for, but I mean, I just, so now that I have social media, I'm just saying, if that's how it's always been, if there's been that much anger and cynicism and bitterness and just throwing hands up in the air and, I don't know, just real, and real anger too. I mean, it's, then I would I'd have to look at people and go, my goodness, watch something else then. My goodness, seriously, watch another TV show.
Yeah, you got to click, buddy. You got to hit that last channel, hit that button, see where that goes.
Well, and again, I don't mean it, and also if it's something, again, I probably shouldn't say this, but that's, if you keep watching and all that, you got nobody to blame but yourself. If you don't like it, I just don't, because I mean that just doesn't compute with me. I would never watch a television show or a sporting event that I didn't like.
Yeah, if you have control over your consternation, if you have control over that emotion that trips the trigger that sets you off, and that is simply changing channels, and then not taking it so seriously, and you don't do anything about it, you're damn sure not going to graduate high school, so to speak. You're in a bad way.
Yeah. Well, as I say again, I mean, to me, it's just I don't know. I wouldn't do it. So I mean, I guess so. From that, to answer your question, I don't know if they've changed that. They're certainly, obviously, they're more in tune. I mean, they know, for the most part. I mean, I think they do. I mean, there's some people that, there'll always be people that are positive. They know everything that's going on when they don't. Or people that'll think, I know everything that's going on when clearly I don't, and they just won't believe me. But so you're going to run into that kind of stuff. But I think there's, I think there's as much information out there as can feasibly be out there. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, there's you've got practically an instant fan base that can let you know how things go or what they thought of something. You can interact with them now. So clearly, Twitter and whatever the internet world and all that stuff are all clearly doing better now because of it.
Yeah.
I think because of social media, and I would think as a wrestler, you could, I don't know. I mean, you can get an idea of what you felt like, people are liking or not liking. But again, you always have, to me, I would still, let's put it this way: if I was working, wouldn't matter to me what anybody said to me. I wouldn't have social media.
If you're on the road now today?
Yes.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Not a chance.
Yeah.
I would just do it the one way that I knew how to do it, and that was to have very little distractions, doing my job and doing it well. Because then you get, then it's like being in asking like 10 different people, having like 6 or 7 agents to do your match.
Yeah.
You don't ever get anywhere because everybody's just throwing a gazillion different ideas out, and then it's, yeah, but you can do this, and then you've always got that one person that's going, yeah, but would you do this? But would you do that if? But would you? And of course, then it's where I have to stop and go. It's pro wrestling, so yes, I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think too many chiefs and not
Yeah, you can't get too many cooks in the kitchen. It just spoils the soup. So I'm with you on that deal. My theory on, somebody asked me this the other day, and I said, I've never done it, but I've called a lot of matches, and I've been around the business a long time. If you can learn to work by simply knowing how you're going to start your match and how you're going to end your match and the time that you're allowed to be out there from bell to bell, you could say you're in a good spot. If you're able to go out and have a good, entertaining match, knowing only the how you want to kick it off, how you're going to end it, and here's the time that we have to work with. And I think that that would challenge a lot of guys right now. Or if you said, okay, Shawn, you're working with Hunter, but I don't want you guys to talk to each other. Theoretically, if the challenge is thrown down, can you guys have a good match without spending all day together?
You betcha.
Absolutely. You know that going to look on the WWE Network, which I've been on subscriber since day one, and one of the reasons is that I was always so busy that I didn't go back and rewatch a pay-per-view. And I don't know, were you ever the kind of guy that would go back and rewatch an entire pay-per-view that you were on, or just go back and watch your match, or not watch any of it?
I had my thing. I would go back the next day, or the day that I got home. I'd watch my match once, and then that was it.
So not a strong emotional attachment. So you're telling me that the WrestleMania 25 match with you and Undertaker, you've only watched that one time?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's too bad. That's sinful. You should.
Well, no, but I was working then. I knew what I liked, what I did. I looked right away at some, a couple things that thought I should change, and then you're on to the next day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have no doubt I'll go back and watch them sometime. But when I was in the midst of doing it, I felt it was best. I could look at them one time and take my mental notes and then try to improve on it.
Were you uncomfortable watching your own work?
No, when I'm by myself. I don't like doing it around other people.
So you just answered the question. Yeah, you were uncomfortable watching your own stuff, unless you could do it by yourself.
Yeah.
That speaks for a lot of things in our life. We could do a lot of things by ourselves that we don't choose to discuss, but nonetheless, I don't know how I got on that tangent. But one of the things, I do the same thing with my hunting show. I don't I'll watch that one time just to see what I like. But I will watch it with my wife and stuff. But I'm more comfortable doing it by myself. Mm-hmm.
But
you mentioned earlier that you're going to be making some changes, production changes or elements or whatever area. That Josh Ishmael is going to take credit for that any creative change. So
sure. Well, we're coming up on our 5th year.
Wow.
So our idea is to sort of bottle up, the McMillan River Adventures as is, and sort of, move into a little bit more of an outdoor lifestyle show and exposing other people to the outdoors. One of the great things, though, is now if you go to Shawn Michaels McMillan River Adventures Facebook page, we're going to have the ability. We'll have a link there where people can watch all of our old episodes for free.
Oh, cool.
No charge. They can see us hunting pigs with you. Because as you know, Outdoor Channel only goes to the people who pay for the channel. And we've got people, all over the world, obviously, who who know of the show but don't get to watch it. And so we've decided we're gonna make it available to everybody. And the alligator hunt with Triple H, the hog hunt down at Steve's Ranch that we had. Like I said, the hunt with you, and just countless other ones. Just to all the folks on March 1st, it's gonna all debut on March 1st. Shawn Michaels MRA Hunting Facebook page. We'll have a link there, and we'll show you everything on how to, watch our shows for free on that. And yes, Josh will most definitely take credit for that. Although I have to give him credit for it. He's one of the guys that helped us get this hooked up in a way that me and Keith aren't as tech savvy as he is. So we've got it so that all the stuff we've done over the last 4 years is going to be available for folks to watch for free.
Are you? Would you ever consider having your family on your hunting show?
We've done, and that's something else that'll be on there. We do a ranch show every year, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Last year Rebecca hunted with me, and heck, I think our first year and second year, my son Cheyenne is still working on it, but she's appeared on a couple of them, just shooting her air rifles and shooting the crossbow and stuff. We're going to try to get her out again this year, hopefully, and
Well, I think
get her
would,
either her first deer or her first pig. But
that would add to the
yeah,
show.
Those there have been offers to do. That was one of the first offers we ever got, was to do a reality show. Just on people were intrigued with the kind of life we live, and with the homeschooling and being an outdoor family, so to speak, and then that up against the what can be sometimes the jet flying limousine lifestyle of the other. They thought that was pretty neat, but we don't want to put our want our kids to get as normal of a youth as they can get.
Yeah.
And so that just wasn't something we wanted to.
I can understand that.
Do.
I don't. You look at the track record of families that have been involved in reality shows. Sometimes you don't have to look very long before you find a little chaos and calamity with the youngins. It changes your life, and what's the trade-off here? And I'm with you on that deal. The kids need to be kids. They need to learn fundamental things, and and that's tough to do in that environment.
Yeah, well, that's funny. I mean, we haven't talked about it with them, but everybody in this, I'll give them that. Everybody in my family looks at me and says, "No, you're the TV guy, man. Just let us do our own thing."
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that.
Well, your wife, not only is she a great cook, she's very photogenic. In case you haven't noticed.
Oh yeah,
and
I noticed that.
Yes, sir. And the other thing is that having a female presence on your show gives both genders more motivation to invest their time and watch that 30-minute program.
Yeah. Well, again, that's as I say that the first year we went out there to to the SHOT Show, it was just Rebecca and I, and heck, we were just talking about wanting to do a show at that time. It was the year. I think the year that I retired, it was 2010, first one we went to, when I knew the direction I was going, and so we wanted to go out and just look around, see what the possibilities were. And of course, everybody was willing to give me a show if she was going to be on it with me. So
that's good. That's good. It's good casting.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if that's still available, years from now when the kids are a little older. Heck, it doesn't mean that isn't something we wouldn't be open to. But right now, again, Shug's still, she's 10, and we get more animals here, JR, now than we know what to do with. For heaven's sakes, we're always adding to it, and there's always something to do here. And if it isn't feeding the goats, the horses, or doing something with the deer, the dogs, or my goodness. And then once we get away from the animals, there's always something to do out here. There's something to plant or some work to be done, something that needs to be fixed. So we enjoy it. We enjoy it, but I don't know if I want to do that with a camera crew around all the time.
I hear you. No, I can understand that. We're taping this before WrestleMania, and one of the attractions at WrestleMania is going to be Triple H versus Sting, and the TV storyline has kind of been as Triple H being the authority figure heel, is saying it's a WWE versus WCW type motivation. I, for one, think it's a good booking, and number two, I think that they will probably overachieve what many of the cynics think will be a pedestrian-like match. I think it will be a great match, but I am emotionally invested in both guys as human beings, in addition to being fans of their work. So what's your thought on that booking? I'm not worried at all that match won't deliver at WrestleMania.
I'm not either. I'll say this. I mean, I haven't seen Steve in a while, but strangely enough, I guess he was in Dallas when I was there. But they did such a good job of hiding him, that I never even saw him that day.
Wow.
I know Hunter's still in phenomenal shape, and I have no doubt, Steve is still the competitor that he once was, and that's something, that is always sort of that X factor that whether people want to call us old or whatever, when we know you're talking like that about us, that's all that's going to do is inspire guys to work harder and want to deliver more. So I think they will make sure that they make it the best they can. And to me, just seeing Sting in a WWE ring, for me, I just think that will be a cool moment. You know, I mean, the last holdout ever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so to me, I mean, the minute I see that, for me, a lot of it's going to be made. It really is, because I just wondered. I honestly did. Just wondered if that was ever going to happen, and sure enough, it is. So I think both guys, you know, are going to do everything that they can to be in the best shape, to bring the best match. And for me, obviously, I'm an old softie now, but to me, that's all you can ask for. And you know, and it would be nice if the fans got there someday. You know, if they got to where, you know, where they are with me. People at all the appearances I come up to, everyone thanks me for putting my body on the line. You know, and for the entertainment and stuff like that. So I hope that maybe they'll start looking at everybody as they go out and not wait until after the guys retire, and start looking at that and appreciating that these guys are going to, you know, do their best that night to make sure they entertain you. And I think that'll be enough, because I think they will.
I think they will, too. I think there's going to be good chemistry there. I think it'll be very I say pro wrestling on this show because I can, but I think it'll be a very good example of what pro wrestling has been in prior generations. I think.
You know, that's the thing too. I say pro wrestling too, and every time I'm there, I say pro wrestling, and nobody's ever gotten mad at me. So is that an actual real thing, or is that just something everybody's talked about as a thing? Because they don't ever say anything to me when I say pro wrestling. I say it all the time when I'm there.
I don't think you're allowed to say it. Well, even when I was there, we weren't allowed to say it on the air. It was sports entertainment. So
gotcha.
So you have to break. So I don't know if your pro wrestlers participate in pro wrestling, but they actually don't. Pro wrestlers. There are no pro wrestlers, so therefore there is no pro wrestling. Do you understand that?
I guess so. Yep.
So, and ignore World Wrestling Entertainment in the name of the company. Forget you ever saw that, Shawn, and I mean it.
Well, yeah, news for you. I've forgotten a lot of stuff. I can promise you that much.
Hey, somebody on Twitter asked me to ask you who was the stiffest wrestler that you ever worked with. And by the way, that's not really a inflammatory thing to say. It's kind of with a badge of courage. But do you have a short list of stiff opponents back in the day?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the first one, again, and I'll say this because I don't want to, to make it sound like I'm bashing the guy. A lot of it was the fact he was green. We were both green, but I had gotten, in Mid-South, gotten in there, first place I'd ever been, and everybody was so spectacular, was learning so much that, as you know, back then, Bill Watts got comfortable with putting me in there with guys, and I'd been in the business 3 months at this point. So, no, I'm sorry, 6 months. I take that back. It was 6 months. But to where he got very comfortable putting me in there with guys that were greener than me and had never been in hardly any matches. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Ed Boo Thomas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The kid. And, of course, I'm having to call, and he was a real wrestler. He was a guy that, like, every time you went to body slam him, he turned in midair and landed on his stomach because his whole life he'd been trained not to go to his back.
Right. Ed Carr, for the folks that don't know, Ed Carr was the heavyweight at the University of Oklahoma, African-American athlete from Tulsa who went to OU and wrestled. And then, of course, Bill got him into wrestling thinking he might find another Dr. Death. You never knew. And Ed Carr was willing to give it a try, but Ed Carr had his challenges.
Yeah,
and he didn't make
it. He never once was never purposely trying to do anything, but he was a big old tough, just hard to move around son of a gun.
Yeah.
Even when he was trying to help me. But it was him, and then the other would have been Kevin Kelly back then when Kevin Kelly first came in as Thor, I think. And
we have to separate him now from the television announcer Kevin Kelly, because somebody's
correct.
going to say,
yes.
Shawn Michaels said that Kevin Kelly,
the
Ring of Honor announcer
version, WWE, I think he was Nails.
He was Nails. That's right.
Yeah, but he backed me up on the rope one time, and I did the whole break thing, and he hit me with a forearm in the gut, and I'd still be down today. If
I thought you said, and I vomited.
No,
and
but again, that's so. For me, those are the ones that, that was at 19 years old. Those are ones that I remember to this day.
Yeah.
And that, mostly because all of us were sort of green then, and just we none of us knew any better.
Everybody just worried about their tan and their mullets, and have a little dip. Just taking it easy.
Yeah, everybody had the mullets in too.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome.
It was mullet world, mullet mania.
Yeah.
You and I are going to be in London together in June, and that's going to be a fun weekend. I'm there with the fan convention, the London WrestleCon.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a really good thing. Who all is there with us? Because, I mean, every time I sort of see that thing, looks like we're there with a fair amount of folks. Like Brett and, I don't know, it's like Amy going to be there? Or?
Yeah, Alita, Amy Dumas, Trish Stratus, Ron Simmons. I don't know the whole Brett and yourself, obviously, me.
Yeah. But all there at the same time?
Yeah, on Saturday and a Sunday, 2-day deal.
Oh, it's tremendous.
Yeah, and I think I'm doing a Q&A, and I think you and Brett are doing kind of a Q&A. It's a great chance for the fans and for us to get to meet the fans. Take a little picture. You know.
Well, that's one of the things I like. I like that they do that. I mean, I guess you do some here. I'd like to maybe start, I don't know, doing some of those. I did it last year, but the Q&A thing is neat, and then you do a little signing.
Yeah.
But that's always a neat thing that I wouldn't mind trying to bring over here to the States.
I love doing those. I love doing those. I really do. So that'll be fun over in London. I'm excited about that. That's a big deal in June. I think it's in June 2021, I believe. But we'll be talking more about it here when we get closer to it. Shawn's book is Wrestling for My Life: The Legend, the Reality, and the Faith of a WWE Superstar. It is available at any reputable bookstore and on Amazon, Amazon.com.
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, you bet.
All the majors. Everybody's got it. Everybody wants it.
And they got it in every version. They got it in the Kindle version, iBook, ebook, even on audio. So you got no excuses not to go out and buy it.
There's none at all whatsoever. I'm going to be very disappointed if your sales don't skyrocket after this podcast airs, because we've also talked some wrestling, which I wanted to kind of work in, and the book is very motivational. This is the kind of book, folks, that you will buy, and then you will want to immediately give it to someone that you really like, so they can read it and enjoy it. It's one of those pass-arounds. Now, I don't think that's really good for the author because he wants to sell a lot of books, but I think if you buy this book, you'll be sharing it with those that you care about.
If it makes one person, again, feedback has been wonderful. I can't thank people enough for reading it, and if it just makes you, take one look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what, I think I need to change. Maybe it's time to make that change. That's all it's about, just being honest with yourself and evaluating yourself and seeing if it's maybe that time to try to be a better dad, try to be a better husband, better employee, whatever the case may be. Trying to inspire that and keep folks hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great message. Hey, one last thing here, because I'm in the middle of writing my autobiography. What was your process, your writing process? Did you have was it telephone calls, getting together face to face? You write yourself?
No, it was all face to face. Yeah, all face to face, and getting together and honestly really trying to make sure. I got pretty hands-on with this, which I didn't even do that with the first book that WWE came out with. This is very hands-on because the faith part and the spiritual message that I wanted to send was very important to me, and I didn't want to discard the wrestling, but I needed to make sure that it wasn't just another wrestling book. So everything I did was face-to-face, and if I didn't like stuff, I changed it and tried to make sure that they were understanding my wording and the way I was saying things. And as I say, Stone Cold gave me one of the best compliments I think I've ever, the best compliment I've ever gotten from him. One of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me is, and he said, "Dude, I felt like your heart was on every page."
Wow.
So,
hey, that's a good.
Wanted it to be personal.
That's a good commercial right there, buddy.
Yeah.
For that crusty old rattlesnake to break through and give you that's damn near poetic.
Yep, it certainly is. Yes, sir.
That old softy. Hey, speaking of him, come WrestleMania 32, you know what everybody's going to be saying? Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboy Stadium. Hey, Shawn, got a question for you,
I've already had an offer.
Oh, I'm sure. I guess so. Mr. Texas there, with that, you got the state of Texas tattooed somewhere on your body, I know.
Yep.
And And if you come back, people would love it, but I admire the fact that you've resisted and you steered the course of retirement.
Well, I appreciate that.
So
I've enjoyed being retired.
Yeah, it's been fun. Well, listen, thanks for being with us. I appreciate you so much. Folks, remember, Wrestling for My Life, the legend, the reality, and the faith of a WWE superstar, written by my friend Shawn Michaels, who's been on our program tonight, is available at Barnes & Noble, Noble bookstores, all fine bookstores, and on Amazon.com. So you can buy this book in several different versions. All right, man. Well, listen, take care of yourself and keep us posted on what's going on. Anything I can do for you, you know, I'm just a phone call away, and I always enjoy catching up. So I
appreciate it, Jim. Thanks for helping out with the book. And obviously, make sure everybody checks in March 1st at the MRA Hunting Facebook page because, we'll have the shows on there for all the people that haven't got to see them. We'll have them on there and see me hunt with all my WWE buddies.
Shawn, thank you, buddy, and continue good luck on the book and on your television program. And your new season starts when? In June?
In July.
July, okay. That's close.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Have a good night. The best of the family, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jim.
You bet, buddy. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
My thanks again to Shawn Michaels. And, folks, hope you check out his book, New York Times bestseller, Wrestling for My Life, the legend, the reality, and the faith of a WWE superstar. It is a blockbuster. And once you start reading it, it's very challenging to put it down, I promise you. It's one of my favorite books. And I could feel it. I could hear it. Well, it's one of those books that you read that you can hear. You read it in Shawn's voice, and that means it's touching your heart. And it's so honest. And it's such an inspirational book. And I think that we could all use some inspiration from time to time, and this is a great source of it. So check out Shawn's book. Amazon's got it. That's where you go back to our Podcast One link at Amazon and go buy the book. Helps Shawn, helps me, and more importantly, helps you when you read it, I promise you. Next week, as I mentioned, Bobby Roode is going to be with us, TNA Impact superstar. This Canadian kid from Ontario, goes from wrestling fan to wrestling star. He's been doing some great things in TNA Impact Wrestling for many, many years. Really a fine young man. Outstanding in-ring performer. He has got his craft down. I have mentioned that, he reminds me so much of Arn Anderson, the Enforcer. And Arn's so physically and mentally tough, so fundamentally sound. And, when Arn Anderson was in the ring, you didn't take your eyes off of him. And the same thing with Bobby Roode. Great young Canadian representative of his country. And he's going to tell some great stories of being a fan and the lengths he took to watch WWE pay-per-views during the Attitude Era. A lot of you are going to relate to these stories. So Bobby Roode here next week, and that's going to be cool. I do want to tell you that we still got some tickets left for my first ever Ringside with Jim Ross show in Baltimore. That's going to be on Saturday night, May the 16th. Big Saturday night in Baltimore. Gosh, what history and heritage in Baltimore. The old arena there, the Great American Bashes, the Raws, the site where Ron Simmons became the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And I got to call that. What an honor for me. What a thrill. And it was also the site of the worst scaffold match I ever saw. And I'll tell you more about that in another time. Fun times. Love Baltimore. Loved Sabatino's, Little Italy. So that's going to be on Saturday night, May the 16th, at the venue. It's called the Ram's Head Live. Boy, what a cool venue. I tell people I'm going to play the Ram's Head Live. They say, man, you're going to love that. Tickets are on sale at ramsheadlive.com. And if you live in the area, hope you'll join us. The VIP meet and greets, photo ops, personalized autographs, little chat, visits with yours truly and yourself, hopefully, start at 6 o'clock. The show starts at 8 o'clock, and we'll stop at around 10, or let's roll rolling. Big extra supersized Q&A. And so we're booking more Ringside with Jim Ross shows. I hope one comes to your area. I really do. I love doing them. The Q&As are the money. You get to ask any damn thing you want, and no questions are off limits. And I will give you honesty. I promise that. So Ringside with Jim Ross coming to Baltimore on Saturday night, May 16th. Ram's Head Live. Tickets at ramsheadlive.com. So I hope you'll join us then. Also, I want to thank everybody that's sending me texts that have enjoyed the film that Jake Roberts Dallas Page and Sean Waltman, X-Pac are in, along with yours truly, called What Now? It is on iTunes, and it's on VOD on all the major cable systems. What Now? Funnier than hell. I think you'll love it. You'll see old JR is a bad guy, and not that fake Razor Diesel bad guy. I mean, a real bad guy. I had a blast. Got to wear my hat. Got to wear a Slobber Knocker T-shirt in there. A couple scenes. So I had a lot of fun, and I think you'll have fun with it as well. It is, of course, the season of the year, my favorite time of the year, grilling season, which for me is every day ending in Y. I love grilling. And WWEshop.com has a full stock of JR's products, sauces, ketchup, mustard, seasoning, ready for immediate delivery at WWEshop.com. Easy, friendly, safe, efficient online shopping. You can also get our products online in the UK and Ireland at American Soda and at Beyond the Ropes. They got it as well. I saw a lot of my T-shirts, and I was surprised. I thought I'd see a lot more Slobber Knocker T-shirts. I did mention that one young lady that had one that was it's like a size too small. That kind of caught my eye for a couple of reasons, but we won't go into that right now. But I saw some of the Tougher Than a $2 Steak, Goofier Than a Pet Coon. They came from ProWrestling.com/Jim Ross. We have sizes up to 5X, folks. 5X. And we ship anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. ProWrestlingTees.com/Jim Ross. And a lot of my buddies have shirts there as well, including Mr. Heavy Hands himself, Big Knuckles, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you should check out his podcast as well right here on this very network, podcast1.com. So Rams Head Live, got that in. Baltimore, excited about that. What Now? Talked about that. So Bobby Roode next week. That's going to be good. So a lot of things are going on. And I just want to thank you guys for downloading and supporting the Ross Report every week. You're great. You're making my life wonderful. You know, to hell with this retirement plan. I don't have a retirement plan. I told some friends of mine the other day, I said, you can say, when you come to my funeral, if you come, that's the day that I retire. And I bet you when I get to the hereafter, hopefully with the good Lord, he'll have something for me to do when I get there, because I don't want to ever retire. So I thank you for being great to my sponsors and who make it all possible for us to do this thing for free. Let's keep it free. The downloads are free. Subscribing at iTunes is free. And one of the biggest ways to help us is to work with our friends at Amazon. That's the easiest way to support the podcast. Every time you do any online shopping, just shop through our links. Amazon will give a small percentage of whatever you buy, no matter what it is, no matter what it costs, how little, how big, a small percentage back to our show to help us cover our production costs. So you can get to my Amazon links by going to podcast1.com, clicking on the Keep Our Podcast Free banner at the top of the page, and then clicking on the Ross Report. Click it, kick it, hit it, elbow it, drop the big elbow on it, drop the bionic elbow on it, do whatever you choose. That's podcastone.com. Click on the Keep Our Podcast Free banner, as you know, is at the top of the page, and then hit the Ross Report button as fervently as you choose. In fact, you'll find all of our sponsors of the Ross Report right there. So check them out. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your support of them. I want to thank Shawn Michaels for being with us here today. I want to thank you for being with us today, and always tell a friend about our show. And I think you're really going to have fun listening to Bobby Roode talk about being a wrestling fan, getting hooked on the Attitude Era, and all the great work that he does for TNA Impact Wrestling, who we are pulling for to make it, and because of guys like Bobby Roode. I really have great respect for Bobby. He'll be on our show next week, and I hope that you'll join us as well. Every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock in California, 8 o'clock in Oklahoma, a new Ross Report drops on Podcast One and on iTunes. So remember, please do something nice for somebody today that isn't expecting it, and that most importantly, folks, our tomorrows are never guaranteed. Again, thank you so much. I'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great week. So long.
Thanks for listening to The Ross Report. Download a brand new episode every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Now, here are the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One.
Looking forward to your tax refund? So are identity thieves who steal refunds by filing fraudulent tax returns. Last year alone, they stole more than an estimated $5 billion from hardworking Americans just like you. Once identity thieves get a hold of your tax forms, watch out. They know that virtually all the information they need to steal your identity and even your life savings is right there. Help protect yourself with LifeLock Ultimate Plus. LifeLock Ultimate Plus provides protection for your Social Security number, bank accounts, investments, even the equity in your home. And while no one can stop all identity theft and nobody can monitor every single business, LifeLock Ultimate Plus provides their most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If you're filing taxes this year, especially if you're filing online, get LifeLock Ultimate Plus. Visit LifeLock.com now and use promo code PODCAST to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate Plus membership. That's promo code PODCAST at LifeLock.com to get a 10% discount. LifeLock.com.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. Have you heard what Republican presidential hopeful Chris Christie wants to do? He wants to push back the age of eligibility for Social Security and Medicare for future retirees.
With life expectancy rising and both work conditions and the general health of older Americans increasing over time, raising the retirement age makes sense. And it also encourages productive seniors to remain in the workforce.
Pushing back the age of eligibility for Social Security and Medicare is just for openers. In a speech today in New Hampshire, the site of the first presidential primary next year, the governor of New Jersey also proposed reducing Social Security benefits in the future for retirees who earn more than $80,000 a year and eliminating them altogether for folks with an annual income of $200,000. I'm Ross Simpson. 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 I'm Ross Simpson.